dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.
Hello and welcome to Liberty Nation Radio, heard coast to coast on the Radio America Network. I'm your host, Mark Angelides. We are talking today on our special polling edition. Every piece of data and analysis you might need, from President Trump's job approval to the elections in New York later this year. It's going to be quite the show. Please remember, Liberty Nation Radio is sponsored by LibertyNation.com. You can access podcasts, breaking news, analysis, and a range of biting and brilliant shows to whet your appetite for freedom and your fondness for the great American Constitution. And you're on Liberty Nation Radio, heard coast to coast on the Radio America Network. I'm your host, Mark Angelides. We're joined by Liberty Nation senior political analyst and longtime host of this here radio show, Mr. Tim Donner. Thanks for coming in to us today, Tim. Much appreciated.
Always a pleasure, Mark.
So, for those of our listeners and viewers who do frequent the pages of LibertyNation.com, sponsor of this here radio show, we are launching this weekend the Public Square Liberty Nation's poll of polls. It's quite a fantastic bit of get-up. It's going to have some great information, looked at in unique ways if you want to know all the latest polling on what's happening in America. And so, in honor of this momentous event, Tim, I thought that we would devote today's show to talking about the polls, because you and I are firm poll watchers. Both of us, that's our first call in the morning, as we go and check out the different polls and the aggregate numbers and stuff. Because we want to get, a feel for where the country's going. Is there a trend that we should be made aware of or should become aware of? And I guess the first and most important poll thing that I want to discuss today, Tim, is President Trump's job approval. Over to you.
Well, I think the thing that stands out to me about President Trump's job approval is that it has remained remarkably steady. There has not been big leaps and bounds and drops. There hasn't been a lot of drama in watching Trump's approval rating. And I think that's as stark a contrast as you could have to Joe Biden, who was over 50% approval or close to it right through the summer of 2021. And then, with the Afghanistan withdrawal, he fell through the floor and never recovered. His numbers dropped. His approval numbers dropped by something like 15% steadily after the Afghanistan debacle, and never recovered. And I think part of the difference between Biden and Trump is that Biden was simply someone that people voted for because he wasn't Trump. He had no real distinct identity other than having been, on the public stage for a long time. Whereas with Trump, his support and his opposition has been hardened for the longest time, that you're not likely to see his numbers waver much from the current 46%.
Yeah.
Might go up to 48, might go down to 44, but it's been very steady. And I think that's a function of the fact that people knew what they were getting with Trump. They didn't first time. They didn't in 2017, but they do now.
Yeah, you pointed out that his average approval now is around the 46% mark. Now, if we look at when he came back to office, January this year, so it was only on 50. So he was riding a wave of approval on 50, and so everything that's happened, if you believe the mainstream media, the end of the world, America losing its standing on the world markets, tariffs, terrorism, and everything you can shake stick at, and it's 4 points. Which, 4 points is 4 points. And
let's
as Donald Rumsfeld says, that's not nothing, but it's only 4 points.
Well, let's be clear here, too. Every president, even Donald Trump, enjoys a honeymoon period after they become inaugurated, because there's anywhere from 5 to 10% of the country that may not have voted for him, but is actually hoping that he's successful as a president, and tends to look at the half full glass rather than the half empty. And it's only after a few weeks or months in office that the hardcore opposition starts to spread a little bit to those people that are skeptical. So this is not at all surprising. I mean, the fact that he was up around 50 or even higher, I mean, we all had to know that was going to be a temporary blip
Oh, yeah.
on the screen. And indeed it was. And he came into this 46% range about 3 months into office, 2 to 3 months into office. And he's pretty much remained there ever since, even though left-wing media loves to do headlines. Trump's support plummeting, which means it went from 47.2% to 46.3%.
Yeah.
And they call that a plummet. That's little more, Mark, than wishful thinking.
Yeah, they didn't put the moniker plummets when Joe Biden lost 15 points overnight.
No, they didn't.
Yeah. It was,
No, they didn't. They preferred to point out that he did what the American people wanted and withdrew from Afghanistan, but that dog never did hunt.
It really
American
didn't.
people. Yeah.
I love that phrase, by the way. That dog just didn't hunt, because
It's a great one.
it's so true, right? That he did what the American people wanted. But sure. So let's say, for example, Tim, I want you to not park your car in front of my driveway. So you park it in my living room. But you did what I wanted you to do. It's there's a lot of forgiveness in there, if you know what I mean. Yes. So that was such a self-inflicted wound by Joe Biden, and I do wonder if that hadn't have happened, if we would have had, and I still think Donald Trump would have won, because all the economic conditions, the border conditions would have been exactly the same. But I wonder if Joe Biden would have stayed in the race if he hadn't taken that beating that just knocked him down so much and kept him at a low level of approval.
Well, I think that, his debate performance, which settled all arguments about whether he had the capacity to continue as president, I think that was settled in late June of 2024. People saw that he just wasn't up to it. So I think in the end, that he would have had to withdraw anyway, because you can only fake it for so long. But
Sure.
The point is that he was already at a low ebb going into 2024, and then it only got worse for him.
Okay, let's talk about Donald Trump's numbers in specific here. His approval, his disapproval rating. So the current average, if you take all of the main polls for the last month or so, again, and put those together and divide them up. So you got 46% approval against 51.4% disapproval, which is a spread of minus 5.4. 5.6%, 5.4%. And so that's 5.4, and that seems that's kind of where we expect him to be, isn't it? Because he has very, very strong support with his base. There doesn't seem to be a lot of wavering. Maybe 1 or 2 points has come out of that. He's got, I would say, almost 40%, maybe a little more on independents. Would you say that's quite fair?
I think the independent vote is totally consistent with someone who won't commit to either the Republican or Democratic Party. They're freelance. They're wild cards. There's no way to know at any given time what independents really are looking for, other than economic stability, peace and prosperity. But when you get into subjects like illegal immigration and deporting criminal aliens and reducing the size of the federal government, these things are by their very nature highly controversial, and can easily be spun by a big media into, well, he's firing federal workers indiscriminately. He's getting rid of important programs. And the average person who doesn't obsess about politics like you and I do, Mark, they don't have the time to look deep into these matters as to whether they support them or not. So people tend to make their decisions about supporting or not supporting a policy based on, a very limited amount of information that is spun against Trump universally. I mean, it's not exactly headline news that over 90% of the coverage of Donald Trump in big media is negative.
Yeah.
Over 90%. And it's been that way for the last decade. So frankly, you can look at his 46% mark and say, that's pretty much the same as Barack Obama over the course of his presidency after he had a longer honeymoon because, of course, he was lionized by the media. But when it all came down, his approval rating really hovered around 45, 46%, just like Donald Trump.
Absolutely right. And now we're going to continue our talk on polling when we get back after this short break. Don't go anywhere.
We dismiss history at our peril.
Liberty Nation Radio with Mark Angelides.